Okay.
Okay. So, welcome. I am Dr. Katrina Cryder, and I'm a chiropractor here at Touch of Health. And we have our huge self-love event coming up at the end of the month. And today we are going to talk to Jan Mitchell, who is a healer. She actually has many different modalities, and she's going to be at our event. So we're just going to talk to her and see what kind of healings she's going to be offering and learn more about them so that you know if something like this, a mini session, might be right for you. So welcome, Jan.
Thanks, Katrina, so much. I'm excited to be here, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Me too.
It feels really good.
Jan and I actually have known each other for, it's over 10 years.
Yeah, it feels like forever.
It does.
It's great.
It does.
In a good way.
And she is one of my favorite healers. I have done several different healing modalities with her, and she's just a great friend of mine, and I'm so excited for you all to learn more about Jan. So Jan, can you tell us, how did you get into the healing arts?
Sure. My segue into the healing arts came when I was about 41 years old. I was actually having what I might call a midlife crisis, what a lot of people call a midlife crisis. I went through a very emotionally challenging divorce after being married for 20 years. I was claiming the truth about myself and who I was, and that was really what I would say is the kickoff point for me. And later realized that I was having a spiritual awakening. It felt very maddening, and it felt like my life was falling apart, but it was really coming together. It did take many, many years of a lot of deep work, but from there, because of the divorce, I then decided that I wanted to do some personal exploration to help myself just go within. And that's when I found a Non-Dual Kabbalistic Healing practitioner. I didn't even think twice. I didn't really care how it worked or anything. I just knew I needed help because I reached out to her a couple of years later, and I was already beginning to not like my job. And I was paid a lot of money to do what I did at the time. I was in IT, and I had loved my job before that. So not only did I have the divorce that happened 2 years later, I began to really dislike my job, and I felt stuck. I actually felt like I had a brick in my solar plexus.
Wow.
Yeah, and I did not know the magnitude, for me anyway, this is my path, of trauma that was underneath all of that. So back in 2002 was really when my journey into the healing arts really began in earnest. And from there, I think it was 2003, I took an advanced healing techniques class. I was invited to it, and I wondered why I was invited to it, because I didn't know anything about healing arts. I mean, I was still in IT. I was still working in IT, and I thought, okay. And it was a little bit of Chinese medicine with using magnets to lay on the body, and then we would sit at the feet, and we would just experience this flow of what I call energy. I think that's what everybody calls it. But I would feel this magnificent energy flowing from the person. Not that I saw anything, or flowing from me. I really didn't know which. I didn't really care. I just felt it something. And sat with it. Yeah, I felt something and stayed with that. And then from there, I decided, because I was at the feet when that program ended, I decided to become certified as a reflexologist, because, hey, I was at the feet. And I thought I would learn about reflexology. And I had already at the same time applied to the school called a Society of Souls to undergo the Non-Dual Kabbalistic Healing training, which was 4 years.
So I think like you have something so relatable, like that you were stuck, you were going through a divorce, you were unhappy in your job. And so was it finding the Kabbalistic healing? Was that something that helped you get through the struggles, and you were inspired then to help others?
Yes, that's what really kicked it off. And I didn't actually start the Non-Dual Kabbalistic Healing program, or NKH for short, until 2006, in the fall of 2006. And I finished the 4 years in June of 2010. But yes, I thought that I had tried therapy, and I just didn't feel like the therapist that I saw really saw me as a human being.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to be with people who were really in the struggles, wrestling with life. That's, that's one of the things. Kabbalah actually means receive, but part of what we do is we know, as being humans here on the planet, that we are wrestling in life. It's not all about roses and sunshine and happiness. There's the shadow aspects of the selves. And at the time when I first started working with my NKH, I wouldn't allow myself to really cry or express anger or any of those shadow type emotions, like feel guilt or shame.
So when you say the shadow self, like what are you talking about? I think a lot of people aren't as familiar with what the shadow is.
Yes, that's a great question. Shadow self to me are the aspects of the self that a lot of people do not allow themselves to really feel fully or accept as part of the human process, being human here on the planet. They include fear, shame, judgment, anger,
frustration. Rage is a good one.
Frustration, terror, and tears. Like feeling sad, feeling grief. We're taught through society, and it's still very entrenched in our world today, that we can only be positive, like always look on the bright side. Tomorrow's going to be another day. Like if you're sad, like if I were to be crying, the reaction I would get from people is, oh, don't cry. There's nothing to be sad about. Or, oh, think positive, it'll pass. And that's just not my belief.
Right. And then a lifetime of like shoving that in. Do you feel like when you got into your 40s and really had that stuckedness, do you feel like you were just almost bottled up with stuff and you were trying to find a way? You went to therapy, right? You're trying to find a way to unbottle it.
Yes, and the therapist she was looking at her notes and was not really seeing me as a human being. So that's when I decided to go with a non-dual Kabbalistic healing practice.
What do you think that the non-dual Kabbalistic healing, like, what was the difference? What do you feel? Yeah,
the difference for me was that, number one, I didn't feel like there was the barrier of them being better than me because they were a therapist or, well, they were, a healer. Because some people, how even with our doctors, medical doctors, we go in sometimes blindly just trusting whatever they say, and they can be wrong just like us. So when you level the playing field and realize that you're both human beings in the world walking your own paths, it helps a lot. So that was the first thing, was I didn't feel like she was above me, like some guru or anything.
Yeah. Did you feel more like she was walking beside you instead of kind of analyzing what your problems were and trying to come up with a solution?
Yes. That's one of the things we don't problem solve as NKH practitioners. We do walk beside people. We hold space. There are certain things that we are embodying in our whole body when we're with a client and they're sitting across from us or they're over the phone. It doesn't really matter. But that was the other thing about her. I really could tell she was seeing me.
Yeah.
Seeing me. And she was receiving all my struggles when I would go in to talk to her. And there were times I would go, I would show up at her office and I would be trying not to cry. And I'd be bawling my eyes out as soon as I walked into the lobby. And I would be thinking, like, what is this? What is this about? Like, I was fine till I got in my car and then I start crying. And well, it was me unwinding.
Yeah.
It was me working.
What a gift. What a beautiful gift to be able to be with someone who's holding space for you, because I don't feel like, even as children, you're crying and people are like, shh, don't cry, right? So it's just such a gift for someone to actually hold space and just be like, I feel you. I'm here.
Exactly.
With you.
I mean, when I was a kid, be it as it may, when I cried, my mother would say, shut up or I'll give you something to cry about. And that's not a loving, my mother was loving in many ways, but then she was also hurtful in very many ways. And that's the nature of being a human being. What what we do is help people wake up to all the voices, the ones that are positive and the ones that they view as negative, or the shadow side, which are the harder ones to be with, because we were also taught as children, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That's another famous one.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So at the self-love event, tell us, like, will you be doing, like, I know we're going to get into a couple other healing modalities that you practice, but let's talk about the NKH. Can you offer like a mini session? What do you think that would look like?
Yeah, what I would need from clients for that is just 5 minutes of them sharing with me anything that they're wrestling with, challenged with in life, anything. And they don't have to go really deep. And then I can do a healing for about 10 minutes. It'll be, because the sessions are 15 minutes long. But so that, yes, because that's the other difference between, thanks. That's the other difference between an NKH practitioner and a therapist, is that we're going to actually do a healing at the end of the session. There are occasions when I don't do healings at the end of the session because I can't drop in. And that really is, I'm listening to what the client is telling me. And sometimes the client just needs to talk. There's still healing that's happening. I just don't do a formal healing. But a majority of the time, I do a formal healing, as we say. And the client is actually telling me what they need. They don't realize they are, but they are.
I love that. So it's very cool. It's guided on, I mean, we can probably have a whole nother interview series on NKH. Yeah. I have been seeing you for 10 years for this type of healing, and I feel like it's definitely helped me with so many of life struggles. Because like you say, we're human. Like, there's so many things that we battle with our, our upbringing, and, just trauma, different everything. Traumas. Life is hard, and you need someone to really walk through it with you sometimes.
Yes. And what we hope for what I hope for when I'm working with clients is that, especially over time, is that they begin to realize and shift. Is, in a way, it's kind of an attitude adjustment, but it's a great, fantastic attitude adjustment, because they're opening up to, oh my gosh, life here is full of very happy, positive things, and it's full of things that clean our whole house out or burn the house down. And and the two are needed to work together. The opposites are needed to work together. We're not trying to get to this place where we're selling, we're constantly selling and it's easy, and life just isn't that way. But what happens over time with this work, in shifting the way we are in the world, we are able to be in the world, and when our house is burned to the ground, we can navigate through it without losing ourselves, without it becoming too chaotic. I mean, it might be chaotic for a little bit, but we can stay on our base, the truth of who we are. Yeah, as we say. Does that help?
So I'd love to talk about the two other healing modalities that you do. Yeah. So I know that you do energy work. So if you could just briefly explain like what that is and how to know that you need it.
Yeah, exactly. I can use energy work similarly to Kabbalistic healing work. And I just want to talk about one difference between those two. In Kabbalistic healing, we aren't actively running energy. And by that, I mean using my hands, my whole being, everything about me. When I'm doing energy healing, I'm actually sending energy into different places in the body, or I may be pulling out, say, stuck places that are in somebody's body, anything that feels heavy. So I'm using the energy. I channel the energy. I am also a Usui Reiki practitioner and a Katrina Cryder Reiki practitioner, but I don't use symbols. I realize that I can just channel the energy, and spirit lets me know where to go on the body. And sometimes I'm actually embodying parts of the tree of life, which is a component of the NKH work as well when I'm doing energy healing with people. It's kind of all coming together. Slowly but surely, it's all integrating for me. I would say in a shamanic way, in my own version of shamanism as a practitioner. But energy healing allows me to help move energy, notice what's going on, maybe ask the client some questions to see if what I'm feeling feels right for them. And the session progresses. A lot of times I'm just running energy and they are just relaxing. And sometimes
Yeah.
they'll doze off and go very deep. Yeah. So,
Gosh,
but
how often do we get to do that? Like just lay there and relax? It's just
exactly. And that's what some people need, is they
yeah.
just need to come in and release. They don't need to know what it is. None of us really need to know what it is. I just go where I'm told or where I hear intuitively, or I may hear the words like, hey, the heart, pay attention to the heart, that kind of thing. So I just follow my own intuition and my whatever, all
Yeah.
of my gifts with feeling and yeah.
So you also do mediumship readings. So I want to touch on that before we
Yeah,
wrap up, because this is something that I think a lot of people don't know about. And I'd like you to explain a little bit about that.
sure. That one's been one of the tougher ones for me because I had to be okay seeing deceased loved ones. And I had a little bit of a conflict when they first started showing up for me in the way that I see them. I had a tendency to push it away, and until I really realized that all of it is healing. Usually, so mediumship readings are usually messages from deceased loved ones. So they want to come in, and it it is healing. It is totally meant for healing.
Yeah.
So a client might be holding on to grief. They might be holding on to something. Let's say they had a parent who passed away, and they might be holding on to, oh my God, I didn't get to say goodbye to them face to face before they took their last breath. So that person, their loved one, may step in and say, they'll give me information about what the setup was like, and they say just the right thing that my client needs to hear in order to let that go. Like it's not something a client needs to hang on to. Everything that happens in life is right and perfect just the way it is, even if you don't get to be with, say, your mother before she takes her last breath. So they show up, and I don't control who shows up. I have read there are mediums who do. They seem to be able to. Mine doesn't work that way. They're all different for each medium. But sometimes they're very bells and whistle types of readings, and then other times they're very subtle. And it all unfolds very organically. It's as if I'm sitting outside in my sand chair in the night, looking up at all the stars, and all the stars are pieces of information for the client. So I'm flipping stars and I'm giving them what's coming through. It could be a song. It could be I get lines from songs all the time that I don't even know. It's so funny. It's uncanny. Or they may give
Lovely.
me symbols.
Do you
Yeah.
remember any what kind of messages that you've had? Anything specific? I actually remember one from the last self-love event. I don't know if you remember it.
I don't.
But one of our clients, her best friend who died in a car accident when she was in high school came through during her session. And I remember her coming out and just being blown away because how were you to know that? And
Right.
she really missed that person. Like that was a significant person in her life, and she was brought to tears by the fact that that person came in to talk to her.
I get so covered in chills listening to you talk about that. I now do remember that. Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, because I do so many readings that it's difficult to really remember from one session to the next nowadays. Anyway, and then the other thing I do that is I just categorize both of them as channeling now, because I do mediumship readings where I get messages from deceased loved ones. I also do straight up channeling from spirit. There's a subtle difference between the two for me in that I know it's from spirit versus knowing it's from a deceased loved one. And the longer that I've been doing the readings, the more it has collapsed into more oneness. I'll just kind of hear it that, hey, your dad popped in and said, don't worry about this, or you're going to be making that job change shortly. The one thing I don't do is what I would call psychic readings. I'm not trying to tell anybody their future, because I believe that we are all meant to walk in the unknown, and that it's because we've been taught to be very anxious and disconnected from ourselves that can have us reach out to psychics. I'm not saying it's bad. I've reached out to psychics before on my journey. I find them helpful. But what I don't do is when I receive a reading, is I don't look at it as, yeah, everything they're saying is going to come true. Because the moment you leave, the world is so dynamic. It is so dynamic. Things change in a nanosecond. So another path could open up for the person, for me, whomever it is. Yeah. So I also channel messages from spirit. They're usually uplifting and hopeful messages. Occasionally it might be crack that whip a little bit, but most of the time it's to help them feel positive.
You all need a whip cracking every now and then, right? Like sometimes there's certain things you need to hear.
Yeah, there are that can help you get on track, and it's nothing to fear, as I learned. But I had to work with it a while, and I had to resist. Like, wow, now we're going to move into talking to dead people. Like, what? But I eventually relaxed. So.
I love it. So you're going to be offering 15-minute sessions, and so the person can pick which kind of healing they would like.
Yes.
And how we're going to do 15-minute sessions. How much are the 15-minute sessions?
They're $20.
Awesome. And then we're going to have links for people to sign up ahead of time so that they can reserve their spot with you. So. Okay.
And are they going to get those links through the website, through a Touch of Health website, or is it going to be like email communication to the client?
I don't remember how we did it last time.
Okay,
I'll post when I post the video, I'll post the links because Jenny handles all that. So
yes, she's fantastic with that and with the technology.
And I'm so excited about this event because it's just such a great time. If you haven't experienced any type of healing and you're curious, it's just a great way to get a mini session to see if this is something that you might like to explore for yourself.
Absolutely. And I have people I've been working with for 15 years.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I think
now.
I'm over 10. So
you're over 10. And then I have clients who will come to me for like 3 or 4 sessions, and then they go away and they're in life. And then one day I'll get a phone call and they're like, hey, I need to come back in for another session or another series. And I'm like, that's great.
That sounds like life.
Yeah, it's life. And that's honestly how I like to be in life, is just show up because I love this work and do the work, and then let them live life and let me live life.
I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
thank you.
Joining me today. It was so fantastic to hear about all the different healing modalities that you're going to be offering, and just learning more about you, because I think you're absolutely wonderful. So
thank you. As you know, I do you have helped me in my back and my nutrition out of some really tough spots over these past 10 years.
Absolutely,
so thank you very much.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at the Self-Love event on February 29th.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, Jan.
You are welcome. Thank you, Katrina.